Good morning. My name is Sherry Bailey. Today I'm going to be talking about motivation and organizational climate. Organizational climate is defined as the way in which employees perceive their organization and its purpose. Whenever I was working on the Med-Surg unit, I would not say that the climate of the unit was very good at all. I think a lot of it had to do with managers that were implementing rules given to them by administration officials who hadn't bothered asking their actual staff employees, so we want you to implement this, for example, how would be the best way to do this? Or we need these things to be met. How would we go about doing this in the best way for y'all, the employees that actually do this on a day-to-day basis? Things like that create a lot of frustration, and whenever employees feel like they're just being given stuff with no actual consideration on, how they're going to actually get that job done to implement those things, I think it creates a lot of negative energy, a lot of frustration, and it most definitely does not encourage people to want to implement the things that, according to administration, need to be implemented. It definitely creates a negative work environment. Let's see. Another reason that I would say that the environment was so negative was because there were a lot of unfulfilled promises. So we would have managers at one point, for example, this is just one example, a manager told us that, oh yeah, coming this whenever, there was a timeline, we're going to have a 5-to-1 nursing staff ratio, and we're going to have 3 aides on the floor at all time. Which would have been excellent. We were all very excited about it. But when that time frame actually came up, it never happened. 5-to-1 nursing never happened. We still had only 2 aides on the floor at all time, no matter how many patients we had, which is really frustrating because, I think a lot of employees feel like if you're going to promise me something like that, you need to follow through with it. Because then, after this, we feel like we can't trust our manager because, oh, well, they say this, but it never happens. So, nothing they say is ever going to happen. And when these employees feel like this, they feel like their complaints, their issues aren't being heard, they're just going to get to the point where they're like, well, why should I do that? Why should I do that for them when they don't listen to me, when they don't help me with anything I need help with, or, I have an issue and they don't fix it, or, stuff like that. And even if it's just a handful of people that are feeling that way, that are feeling negative and down, it can most definitely bring everyone else down with them. If you have people that are coming in every day feeling like that, they'll talk about it all the time, and they'll constantly, complain about it to other people, and then other people will be like, you know what, you're right, that does happen a lot, and it'll just bring everyone down, and it just creates a very negative environment, a negative climate. That was definitely something we dealt with a lot over there on the Med-Surg unit. There are different things that leaders and managers evaluate to look at the overall climate of the organization or unit. Things like absenteeism, unmet performance objectives, lack of initiative, reduced interest in their work and organization, all of those things affect the climate of the organization. These are signs that work climate may be less than optimal and that staff may be holding back the extra effort that they could bring to their job. There is extensive evidence that confirms the relationship among positive work environment, positive nurse outcomes, or job satisfaction and retention, and positive patient outcomes. All of those things correlate with one another and affect the climate of the environment, the way that staff employees feel. A couple of efforts that leaders can do to improve the management of workplace issues would be, for one, improving staffing ratios, especially in my Med-Surg example. Staffing ratios were a big problem for us. When your staff are overworked, they get burnt out, they don't feel motivated to do anything extra, anything that goes above and beyond. Why would I do that? I don't feel like it. Sorry, tired. You don't help me at all, so Why should I help you? That's the attitude you get. Making promises like the ones that they made to us about, oh yeah, you're going to get these better staffing ratios, and never following through with them, it makes sure that staff members don't trust their leaders, their managers. So, like I said, it definitely, that's one of those things that, would definitely improve the issues in the workplace, the climate of the environment. Another thing that would definitely be really important to address is leaders standing up for their staff. According to American Nurse, leadership plays a big role in sustained improvement. So when you have a leader that, say they get something from administration says, oh, you need to implement these policies and procedures. They look at them and they either go to the staff and say, hey, is this realistic? Can we do this? Get feedback from the people that are actually going to be doing these things, Some people are always going to have negative feedback. That's just the way of the world. But, you might actually get some really good feedback from people who are just trying to be realistic about this stuff. And then you can go back to administration and say, hey, what you proposed won't be realistic, but we can do this, and we have some other options, things like that. You have to stand up for your employees as a leader, to people, because a lot of times the staff employees, they don't have voices, there's a chain of command and you have to follow the chain of command. So if the bottom of the chain goes to the one above them and then it stops there's no follow through from the leaders, then, nothing will ever get passed and no one will ever be happy. These, of course, are just a few things that can be done to improve work environment. It is beneficial to organizations to encourage leaders and managers to improve the overall climate of their facility, because better outcomes for both nurses and patients were the most practical and important result of these improvements in the work environment.